In this episode of Haunted Cape Breton, a man's college apartment is haunted by spirits, and later, a mysterious Spanish book of 1753 is made from human skin. Would a paranormal investigation give us more answers about its origins?
My name is Clifford Paul, and I'm from Member 2. I'm Member 2 born. I come from this community. I have 5 adult children, 10 grandchildren, and they really enjoy that I'm a good storyteller. And the good thing about my stories, they're all true. This is a story that happened to me when I was a college student. I would say around 2002, approximately there. I was living in an old home on Union Street, and it was a duplex, and it was refurbished, I guess. It was done up nice. It was an old home with hardwood floors. As soon as I moved in, I had that feeling. This place is haunted. I knew right away because I grew up in a haunted house. I went out of town for the weekend. Hockey tournament or something, I don't remember. And my neighbor tells me, hey Cliff, were you running up and down your stairs all weekend? I said, I wasn't even home all weekend. And she goes, smoking a cigarette, oh, it's just a ghost. And I told her, what do you mean? Oh, a little girl ghost. We never seen this little girl ghost. I guess she is happy with our presence there. Every now and then I'll hear her footsteps coming up and down the stairs of a child. So what happened was I would go to school every day, treat it like a job, get there at 8:30, leave at 4:30, even though my classes would be different times, but I would do that every day. And when I come home from school, I would clean the rooms, make them comfortable, because my younger children were small then, and they would spend weekends with me. And when me and my son moved in, we later would find out there would be several spirits there, and the energies are mixed in each one. One time we were living in an apartment, and we had my son's guitar in the living room, and then somebody just went by and strummed it. One strum, all the strings. And I asked him, did you touch your guitar? He says, no. Did the cat go by and hit it with his tail? No. Just little things like that. We're used to that. We grew up with that. My kids grew up with that, and it didn't concern us or worry us. But there's also in the neighborhood, in neighboring homes, there were some pretty bad ghosts too. Sometimes you can see them from our house. One time my son was sleeping. He wakes up in the middle of the night. And I think he'd be about 12. And he looks out the window because he had this awful feeling. Seen something like a gargoyle sitting on the roof looking into our apartment. And he hid under the windowsill. And fell asleep there, like so it won't see him. And he forgot all about that story, didn't tell me about it till years later. And my neighbor who lived there next door to me, one night I came home late, I seen her on her porch having a cigarette, and we're having a talk. And she says, "Clifford, can you hear the screams?" And I told her, "I can't hear the screams. I can't sleep at night. It was why I'm out here having a cigarette. It's because I hear screaming all upstairs." I see things, people see things. That's my reality, that's their reality. If somebody said they heard voices or they heard screams, maybe it was meant for only them to hear. I will not deny anybody's reality. If somebody said they seen this and they thoroughly believe they seen that, I'm not going to be a skeptic. I'm going to say, well, that's what you saw, and I believe you.
Clifford makes it very clear he has no problem with the ghost in his apartment. But will this next encounter change his judgment?
I guess I had a full day at the college, and then I had a full day of doing chores that night, and I went to bed, and I must have been tired because I fell asleep flat on my back. I was in a deep, good, comfortable sleep. And then I felt somebody just sat on my bed while I was sleeping. And I thought to myself, okay, there's somebody on my bed. I never gave anybody keys. My doors and windows were locked. And here I am, a single guy, somebody sitting on my bed. I don't know what's going to happen. Was sitting there. And I sat up. And right in front of me, this close, there was a woman looking at me, straight at me. I looked back at her, and I was trying to figure her out because there's a woman sitting on my bed. There's no color, just tans, whites, grays, and blacks. And she was dressed in old clothing. I could not get the time frame, but it was night clothing, where somebody like a nightgown and whatever she was wearing. And when I looked at her, I seen all that, and then I also looked at her face, and I noticed she had a look of a pain, lifelong pain. She looked like somebody who was sick or abused, or both, all of her life. She had that look, just pain. And then I'm still figuring this out, and then I look into her eyes. When I look into her eyes, all black. There's no whites, it's just all black. And when I see all black, At that moment, I realized she was a ghost. And at that moment, she realized that I realized she was a ghost. Once we had that mutual realization, when I looked into her eyes, or what looked like eyes, her spirit said to me, and I can hear her voice, but it didn't come from her voice, it came from her heart. She says, "Can you feel my pain?" And I looked at her, and my spirit said, "Yes, I feel your pain." Just like that. It was not my voice, it was my spirit talking to her spirit. So she stood up, her face changed, there was less pain. And then she disappeared into the wall. And then what I did, I just rolled over in my bed and I prayed hard for her. When I left, I think it still has that same energy, but the female that I had a conversation with spiritually, she never returned. I think she just needed that validation from somebody who has a heart, or some resemblance or semblance of a heart. So she asked me, and she asked me if I felt her pain, and I said I did. It was my spirit that realized that. People look at spirits and they associate it with horror. I seen a spirit and I associate it with pain and love.
It's one of the only 3 in the world. It was buried in Chapel Island in the Mi'kmaq community of Budladek. If you'd like to see the Skinbook for yourself, it's on display at the Nicolas Museum in St. Peters, Nova Scotia.
My name's Judy Madden, and I was the curator at Nicolas Museum for 16 years. I'm now retired from that position, but still help out whenever I can. The history of the book is it was buried on Chapel Island in the Mi'kmaq community of Budladek. The natives found it, and at the time they gave it to the local priest. His name was Father Leo Keats. And when Father Leo Keats died, he left it with the Curry family from St. Peters. And Mrs. Curry was very prolific in the museum when it started, getting the museum started. And she donated the book to the museum. That was in 1967, so the museum has had this book for quite a long time. Then the Mi'kmaq became concerned about the book and asked if we could have it DNA tested. So Mr. Keats came and got the book, took it to Parks Canada, and Parks Canada sent it away to British Columbia, and they did a DNA test on it. The best they could come up with was that it was a descendant of European female. The research that was done at that time told us that there were 2 other books in North America that were covered in human skin. One was at Harvard University, one's in Milwaukee, I'm pretty sure. And then we had one. As a result, the book sort of garnered some interest. Lots of people would come in just to see the book and hear the tale. And then Dr. John Stone, who is an English professor at the University of Barcelona, came in, and he became interested in the book itself, not the skin, but the book itself. And he also was the person who found out that covering a book in skin was not a torture or something that was bizarre. It was a custom in Spain back in the 1700s that they would take the skin and they would cover books or make pouches, and it was a memorial of the dearly departed. The author was a philosopher. not a great philosopher, according to Dr. Stone, who wrote 3 books. And this is the 3rd book of a trilogy. It's just the author's thoughts, and apparently they're pretty dry. It's the 3rd book of a trilogy, of which there are only 3 copies left. Reverend Pierre Millard, who was here in the 1700s, he came and he worked with the native people in Cape Breton, not just here, but in all of Cape Breton, in Antigonish County. He was here for quite a number of years. The supposition is he brought the book with him, because at that time in Europe, Catholics were being persecuted, and priests were not allowed to say Mass in England and Ireland and some in France. And so these priests were going to Spain to study and to practice their faith. And they think that he probably brought this book with him to keep up with his Spanish that he would have learned when he was in Spain studying.
Now that we know the history of the book, the Skinbook has no reports of hauntings. With this being said, will this quick paranormal investigation still give us some answers about the book's mystery?
That's why you see it as a momentum, and the book is seen as a momentum, obviously. So the book is seen as a momentum, obviously. So the book is seen as a momentum, obviously. So I'll ask the priest thing again since I wasn't recording. Did a priest bring this book? I'll ask the priest thing again since I wasn't recording. Did a priest bring this book? Did a priest bring this book? Who owns the skin of this book? Who owns the skin of this book?
The DNA results from the Skinbook says it was from a female, possibly of European descent. Could this be a clue from the paranormal world about the female's age? And did a priest really bring this book to Cape Breton? According to the response, it may be true. As I wrap things up, I get a last friendly response from the spirits.
We only come with respect, and we honor this book, and they will take good care of it, just to let you know. Okay? Thank you. And they will take good care of it, just to let you know. Okay? Thank you. Okay? Thank you.